Hi, this is Kristen, and this is the fourth in a series of videos to help you with the Schoology Skyward integration. Now we're getting to the exciting part, how to link your Schoology and Skyward gradebooks. So I'm going to first go to my Schoology page to show you the Skyward app. You should notice in all of your courses down in the lower left-hand corner a little icon that says Skyward. When you click on that icon, you're going to notice two different fields that you can work in. But the first thing you need to do the first time you use it is approve Skyward authorization. Once you approve that the first time, you won't have to do this at any other time. Similar to how you approved your Google Drive authorization early on in our use with Schoology. You'll notice at the top a sync grades feature and a configuration feature. We're going to get to sync grades later when we have assignments, but the first thing that we can do, and we can do this before the school year starts, is to configure our gradebook. If you're not familiar with the Schoology gradebook, it is going to be very similar to the Skyward gradebook, and we're going to need to pull over the categories from Skyward into our gradebook. So if I go to gradebook setup here, notice that I've already mapped my grading periods from Skyward. This is automatic. You don't have to put your grading periods in anymore. But there aren't any categories. And in order for an assignment to be pushed from Schoology to Skyward, the categories between the two gradebooks need to match. You'll also need to decide at this time if you're going to be grading on total points or percentages. So before we do anything in Schoology, we're going to go to our Skyward gradebook. So I've gone ahead and I've logged into Skyward, and I'm going to go to my gradebook, and I am going to go ahead and pull up one of my grade 8 classes. Now the great thing about Skyward is that you can set your grade categories and you can set your percentages or your total points for all your classes from one screen, and you can apply it to all your classes. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into categories. And you can add and edit categories here on the right-hand side. So there's a whole list of categories here. I'm actually going to unselect all so that I can just pick the ones that I want to use. And you might have one that is laid out specifically for your class. We are in the process of updating these categories. So if you're doing this in early August or mid-August, you may not see all the categories here yet. I know that Fayed has a specific one that hasn't quite been added, but it should be added by the end of the week. So for right now, I'm just going to pick formative and summative assessment. And you'll notice here that I have the option of giving it a percentage. If you don't give it a percentage, let's see just what happens if I save it. It'll just be allocated to 100%. But I want to give these a percentage. I'm going to do something new with my grading system this year, and I'm going to do 20% for my formative and 80% for my summative. And then I'm going to go ahead and save that. Now, up here on the left-hand side, you can go ahead and use this category setup for all your other classes. And so I can go ahead and click that. I can click all my classes, or I can just pick the ones that I want that scoring for. So maybe I just want it for my 8th grade classes, or I just want it for my team sports. Since this is a test, we're going to go here. I was just going to select one for Mr. Wallace, but I think I'm going to apply it to all his classes, and I can go ahead and save that. Now you can go ahead and change your categories and update those during the grading period, but as soon as the grading period comes to an end, you're locked in. So you want to make sure that you get everything set up the way that you want early on in the semester. So now that I have the categories, I can go ahead and change the scoring method. So I can use total points, or I can do it based on the percentages. So that's another way that I can change that there. I'm going to keep it with percentages. Then once everything is set up in my Skyward gradebook, I can go back to Schoology, and I'm going to go back to that Skyward app. This may just take a little bit to load, and I'm going to go to Configure. While that's loading, you should only have to configure one time in the semester unless you add something later. So I'm going to go ahead and map. Now notice it has nothing here. It says create new Schoology category. If I already had categories created, let's say I had a category that I already put in and I called it formative, but now in Schoology or in Skyward it says formative assessment, I could map formative assessment to formative if I already have a category in Schoology. So if you already set up your Schoology categories, you would select that category. But since I don't have any Schoology categories, I'm going to say create new Schoology category, and then that way it's going to map these two together. So it's basically like linking them together. And I'm just went right by my summative assessment. I'm going to do the same thing here, and I'm going to create a new Schoology category. And then once I've done all that, at the very bottom here, I'm going to save that configuration. Now, if you decide between the mid-August doing this and when you get back workshop week that you want to switch some things up, again, you can do that in the middle of a grading period. You can add a new category or you can switch your percentages. But once the grading period closes, you're unable to make any changes. So you really want to make sure you've thought about how you want to set up your gradebook. Now, if I go back to my gradebook and I go to grade setup, you'll see that there are formative and summative assessments, and they're already weighted at 20 and 80%. So I pulled over all of that from Skyward into Schoology, and my gradebook is ready to go and add assignments. In the next video, I'm going to be adding an assignment and showing you how to sync that over from Schoology to Skyward.